Games with fixed camera angles almost feel like a lost art in this day of age, and it's such a shame. The way a game is able to deliver environmental experience to the player through these fixed angles can create tension in ways other camera angles can't. Especially when you go back and look at the Resident Evil games. The way they curated encounters with various monsters was so far ahead of its time, it's crazy really looking back on it. But now, a couple is looking to recapture that magic with Echoes of the Living, a very heavily inspired fixed camera angle horror game by some of the greats in the 90s. So before I dive into what I like or disliked about the demo, I know they are constantly posting updates on the game over on Twitter, and the demo was more of a way to show off the concept of the game they are making. They also have a new updated demo planned in the future that will replace this one, so if you're interested in the game at all, I recommend checking out this demo before the new one so you can see the difference in the game and improvements they have done. I always find that kind of stuff interesting. Anyway, now moving on to the actual game, in the current demo you have a choice of two characters, Laurel Reeves and Liam Oakwood. I hope I said that right. Doesn't really matter too much who you choose in the demo, it plays out basically the same as either one of them. Now once I finally got into the game, first thing I noticed was how amazing the environments looked. From the lighting to the little details like this neon sign glowing in the water, they really crafted an environment that is fun to explore, which is good because one of my biggest complaints about the demo is the constant need to run to the item box due to the limited carry spaces. Because you see, just like Resident Evil, you have a save room where you can save your progress, except instead of using an ink ribbon, you have a floppy disk that is used to save. Then of course, you have a storage box that is connected to all other storage boxes, so you have access to your items in a more convenient way. But like I was saying before, there are so many items and so much running around in the demo that I was routinely making multiple trips to areas just so I can pick everything up. Now, I don't necessarily think this can't be a good thing. If we had an option to drop an item or use an item for crafting on pickup with an item already in our inventory, then I think this limited space is perfectly fine. Without these little quality of life improvements, I feel like the experience is held back just a little bit. Then speaking of crafting, just like you would expect from a Resident Evil game, you have three kinds of herbs called saplings. These come in red, blue, and green. They could be mixed together for various effects. My only complaint with them is I couldn't mix the blue with the green without the green first being mixed with the red. I think this is unnecessary. You should be able to mix any combination of them. Definitely when they put a blue and green one next to each other, it just fills up two inventory spaces for no reason. Then with the gunpowder, you can mix them in a variety of ways to make ammo, like two heavy gunpowders can make shotgun ammo. No complaints here, they did a great job with this. Though if there is one thing that would be nice is if in the item box there was a way to auto sort items to different categories they fall into. This would make scrolling through all the items a lot more pleasant, but it's the least of my worries. Then before moving to the enemies in the demo, I do want to throw out they do have various puzzles, from lockpicking to a cool electronic puzzle where you have to rotate these dials. I have no complaints on these, they're well done and do a great job of breaking up the action. Now moving on to the enemies and some of the encounters, there's a good variety in the demo. You have zombies, dogs, crows, spiders, and a tyrant-like creature you fight at the end of the demo. I really enjoyed engaging with most of these enemies. The angle set up as you fight the zombies creates a great atmosphere and tension with them thanks to them being just off screen so you can't see them. Though there was one moment in the demo I was majorly disappointed in. You drop into this room and see this strange zombie fused into the wall. Well, after grabbing the item you need, he breaks from the wall, but you can just run away instantly and never engage with him. This was a disappointing way to set this up. It would have been way better if he was stuck to the door you had to leave through, and that was why the door couldn't be opened from the other side. So when you grab the item, you have to either kill him to get by him, or lead him into the small tight room you dropped down into to dodge around him to escape. It's not a big difference, but it's enough to make a moment memorable compared to disappointing. Now moving over to the spiders, they are really easy to fight since they just crawl on the ground. At least that's all they did for me. Now if they make it so they are crawling on the walls and ceiling in the full game, which I assume they most likely will, then maybe they even can make them crawl faster as well. Encounters with them should be a little more interesting. As for the crows, well, they're crows. They do their job. Now the dogs, on the other hand, I really dislike them. They are too fast and attack way too much. The fact they can literally trap you with a stun lock is crazy. I found them harder to fight than anything else in the game. Even the Tyrant was a joke compared to them, so it would be nice if they just had a little more time between attacks. It doesn't have to be huge, like a 2 to 3 second increase would go a long way. Then in terms of control over the character and gunplay, it feels really good for the most part. Shooting enemies has nice feedback and looks satisfying. You can aim up or down to shoot different areas on a monster. In terms of running around, I do feel the stick used for looking around is a little sensitive. I found it somewhat oddly hard to just run in a straight line. I know tank controls can be odd at times, but even after playing about 10 hours into the demo, I still felt off to me. Then your movement in the critical state is hilariously slow and looks a little awkward, but I fully expect the animation for this to be smoothed out, so I won't really complain about it too much, but I do think the movement speed needs to be just a little faster. Then if there was one last thing I wanted to note on, I think the knife needs a little more range on its attacks. It feels almost useless with its current duration since it's just so high risk to use, which is somewhat understandable since it's like your last line of defense, but I still think a little extra range would go a long way. Overall though, Echoes of the Living demo was really fun to play and definitely has the potential to capture what made the fixed camera era of horror games so great, and honestly, nailing the gameplay or environments will not be the hardest part of making a game like this. It will actually be a convincing story with interesting set piece moments that will be the hardest to nail. As good as the old Resident Evil games are, would anyone have loved them as much if it wasn't for the interactions we got between the characters? It's hard to say, but when all of it is working together, it's an experience that is truly hard to beat. Thanks for watching, everyone.